This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Get underway. Former Liverpool director of football Damien Comolli has been looking into his crystal ball and trying to look ahead to how the transfer window may be affected by the current situation we're all in. And as the old proverb goes, one man wish is a man's shirt. So I'm in fact going to look into free transfers. One, what free transfers may be available in the summer that Liverpool could well consider, as well as those that they've done in the past. Some have been successful, some not so much. Joining me to do a man of culture, Mr. Ian Doyle. Doyley, how are you?
Okay. You seem to have got me mixed up with somebody else there, though.
Well, no, it's just because of your array of wonderful reading that you had. We've had Pele, we've had Burgundy, and now Diego Maradona.
Yeah, I'm just, there was somebody else on Friday, don't worry.
Well, also with us, having undergone a quarantine haircut, Sean Bradbury. Sean, how are you?
Very well, mate. Yeah, survived the first two of lockdown. I'm looking forward to yours, and I want to let the listeners know what I want is your hair to be cut while you commentate over it. I think that's got viral video potential.
Yeah, my hair's just about hanging on in there. It is, but it's beginning to look somewhat of a mess. And making her lockdown blood red debut, Caoimhe O'Neill. Caoimhe, how are you?
Good. Have you missed me?
You certainly have. I was wondering why it's sort of taken so long for you to have you on the podcast.
Just been a luck guy, haven't I? No, I work early, so usually it's at this time, but today I'm on a bit of a late shift, so you've got me company.
Great stuff. Well, we've plenty to get into, and I suppose we get straight into the season get updated. Well, Doyle, I said right at the top that we don't really know when next season's going to start, neither do Liverpool Football Club, of course, and they've announced that for the time being then that the renewal process for season tickets is going to be on hold.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sensible thing to do, really, isn't it? As you say, we don't know when the season's going to start, so it's probably not fair to start asking people whether they want to be signing up for a season that A, they don't know when it's actually going to begin, and then two, whether they're actually going to be allowed into to watch the games themselves. I mean, as I say, sensible thing for Liverpool to do. Most, or certainly several other Premier League clubs have done exactly the same thing. I think the other thing that could be taken from that, 2 points I felt anyways, that Liverpool, obviously, they haven't really said a lot about, what they think about the whole thing, about the Premier League restarting, even though we quite clearly know that they would love it too, because then they can crack on and win the title. They said in a statement that they support the United effort in terms of trying to get the season started again. And also they've said that they are going to freeze the prices for the season tickets for another year. That makes it 5 years in a row now. So there was a little bit of detail in that. The main thing is that we don't know when this season's going to start. They also said that if games are played behind closed doors, the last 4 games, I think it's Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Burnley and Chelsea, that they will refund any tickets, indeed any tickets, any hospitality, or the season ticket holders in particular. They can then have that move forward, that credit to next season to pay for the season tickets then. So, it's a wise move from Liverpool. It's the they could have done really. And again, it just underlines the fact that we're still no clear as to what exactly is going to go on in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and Sean, I suppose it's a proactive view from the club. Still 4 games, as Doyle said, to fit in some time at Anfield, and we just wonder whether those will be with a crowd or not.
Yeah, well, it's looking for all the world, isn't it? Like, that's going to be behind closed doors, and we've heard lots of views on that. Virgil van Dijk saying that he doesn't think that's an ideal situation. I think there are quite a lot of people, even some people on our pods. Paul Philbin was saying that, wasn't he, on our fans pod, that he kind of almost wouldn't want to go back to Anfield if it had to be behind closed doors. But yeah, I think we've seen the financial reality of it is that this season will have to be finished. Be threats to probably in existence of some, maybe not top 5 clubs, but certainly others if that was the case. So yeah, it's going to happen. But I think, as Doyle said, it's all pretty welcome stuff from the club, what they put out. And I think it's good that fans have financial clarity quite an early stage, because obviously, we know all the threats to the club in terms of like revenue streams and things that they're worried about. But, obviously football fans across the world will all be feeling the pinch at the moment, won't they, with all sorts of kind of different work arrangements and things that they're going through. So yeah, it's welcome stuff.
And Caoimhe, there on the revenue stream thing, that it's sort of been estimated that £12 million could be lost if those 4 games weren't to be played. It does just show that actually how much the fans, in terms of them flocking through the gates, does mean to Liverpool.
Yeah, definitely. It does show how important supporters are to the game. If we've come through this, we know. The idea of playing behind closed doors is just obviously horrible. If that's the safest thing to do, then it'll have to happen. But I think it's a good move, this, from the club, because obviously, like Sean mentioned there, people are feeling the pinch. There'll be people, Liverpool season ticket holders, who've lost the job, and that extra little bit of money, if the game aren't going to get played at Anfield, will obviously, be important to them. So I think, it's the right decision's been made, and I think it does sort of shine a light on how because you don't always think about how important, regular match go it is, to the club financially, and I think this has sort of laid that out. So I think going forward, we know how important supporters are, and if you've got a seat in Anfield, you feel like you are, contributing to the club's finances, because you definitely are.
Just wait and wonder how long it'll be till fans can get back inside Anfield. Hopefully not before too long. We'll move on from there, because not really too much else to say. Then we don't know when next season's going to kick off, but we're going to get into a man who used to be high up in the ranks at Anfield, and that is Damien Comolli, former director of football, who's been speaking with Sky Sports, Sean, and he's been saying quite revealingly that, speaking with football agents and whatnot, that he thinks there's only going to be 3 Premier League clubs in a position to spend fees on transfers in the upcoming transfer window, whenever that may be.
Yeah, I think when I first heard what he said, you're kind of taken aback by it a bit, aren't you? You just think, well, that's not what we expect from modern transfer windows, with the yellow ticker and everything, and usually most clubs do so, don't they? A little bit of business at least. But yeah, the more I thought about it, he said obviously he spoke to an agent, and the intel from this agent was that only 3 Premier League clubs will be able to spend. He's still pretty connected in the game, isn't he? He was only, I think, sporting director at Fenerbahce earlier this year, and he's got a lot of contacts in the game, I'm sure. So I'd imagine there's a little bit of truth in what he said. But at the same token, you would imagine that Liverpool are one of those clubs. Surely you've got a little bit of money, especially as we've said countless times that spending was relatively light in the last few windows. And I know Liverpool are obviously under financial pressure, as every big club is, and every club throughout the kind of football pyramid is at the moment. I'd also say, though, he made a couple of comments. He was saying, like, it does there'll be a lot of actual transactions in terms of fees being paid of actual money, but there'll be swaps, there'll be loans, there'll be kind of creative deals. I think that's one area where you'd have to say Liverpool, under the current stewardship, Michael Evans and co, have excelled. So I think if it became a challenging market where you had to really be creative and think of different ways to get business done, obviously the whole thing's a horrible situation with what's happening in across the world, but you could look at that maybe as ways in which Liverpool could potentially do quite well, to put it bluntly, because I suppose, first of all, like we said, they might have a bit more money than others, but also if there were deals to be done, home market to potentially exploit, I think you'd back Edwards and people like that who are in the club at the minute to make the right decision. So, yeah, really interesting stuff from Comolli, and we'll see how it all plays out in the coming months.
Yeah, is it there, sort of from what Sean's saying, kind of underline and highlight again how Liverpool always seem to, especially with Michael Edwards and the way in which FSG have got things set up at the top of the club, seem to be one step ahead. Of course, no one predicted this thing happen, but in terms of the planning for transfer windows, they are always ready to adjust to whatever the situation may be.
True. I just want to go back to what Comolli said, though. I can't see it just being 3 teams. I know the point you're trying to make, that they'll probably be the big spend, but I think everybody's kind of realised that over the past couple of weeks anyway. It would be a bit obscene if we saw players moving for £150 million, given what's happening across the world at the moment. But you're telling me that Manchester United aren't going to spend any money? Manchester City, Newcastle got all the new money. Well, they'll assume that will come with the imminent new takeover. I mean, whether Liverpool spends something is up to them, but there's 4 teams straight away. I think Arsenal might want to spend some money. That's good news for you, Guy. Tottenham seem as though they're trying to save every pence that they've got, so they might be spending a little bit. But again, it depends on whether there's promotion, who comes up. So. I mean, speaking though, I think the point that he's making is correct. We're not going to it's not going to be a transfer window like we've known in the past. Liverpool can take advantage. But what interested me was there was an interview with Dejan Lovren yesterday on the club website, and he was speaking like somebody who isn't going anywhere. Now, we're kind of been, led to believe that Lovren might depart at the end of the season, certainly in the summer. He nearly went at the start of this season. He's definitely 4th choice in terms of centre-backs. But if you've got players now under contract that you don't have to sell, I think clubs might be thinking twice about letting them go. I mean, whether that applies to players like, Lallana is different because he's going to be out of contract. Shaqiri's, I don't know, he's basically not paid, has he, for the best part of a year. So if Liverpool could get some money, but it won't be the money that they would have got, say, 2 months ago. We were talking about, Sevilla were meant to be, or Rome were meant to be looking at £25 million. Now it would probably be half that for, because there's a player who barely played, at least for now, and then everybody's market level would have dropped. So maybe there's a sense that not just Liverpool, but all clubs might go, you know what, we've got this player, we could sell him, but it's probably better off keeping him because he's probably more to us playing for as being an option than he is just for the money that we could get for him, that we then won't be able to buy anybody because every other club's just keeping hold of their players. So it will be interesting to see what happens, though I agree with Sean. If anybody can, take advantage of this, I know it sounds terrible, but let's be honest, it is taking advantage because that's what everybody will be trying to do. Everybody's trying to get the best for themselves at the moment. So I think Liverpool were very well placed, but just because they didn't spend any money last season doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be spending a load of this season. It depends on what the manager says. He might go, you know what, this team's very good, doesn't really need that much strength, and we've got these youngsters coming through. That might just be it. I mean, that's a debate for another time, but yeah, if Liverpool are to do anything, I think it'd be quite clever.
Yeah, and that age profile of the squad as well, as you say, doesn't really sort of seem to scream out that Liverpool are in desperate need to do anything. But Keeper, I suppose it's all about relevance, isn't it? Every club's going to effectively be in the same position because this is a pandemic that is a global thing. So therefore, Liverpool's position within that shouldn't be all too unaltered. The demand for clubs to get players will remain, but perhaps the amount of money they can pay for them won't be as high.
Yeah, it's going to be a domino effect, isn't it, throughout all the clubs. You're looking at, this summer you were sort of predicting, massive moves for the likes of Jadon Sancho, Kylian Mbappe. It was a lot of talk. It was getting ridiculous, wasn't it? It was getting to a point where something like this almost, you don't want nothing like this to happen, but something like this almost needed to stop the never-ending sort of, prices just going up and up, and the demand was just that's just ridiculous, I think. So obviously that seems to have now obviously destroyed that in a way. So obviously prices will come down, but the likes of, say, like Sancho mentioned there, Dortmund were looking over 120 mil or something like that for him. Then they're not going to get that now. So then does that go on hold if Liverpool were interested in him? Do they get him for a good price, or then did the club just shut up shop? We know we're not on anyone, and then that's that effect. I think we're probably entering one of the most interesting transfer windows of our time, pretty much, just because of, it's either going to be do or die. Clubs are gonna sign players, or there's gonna be some weird NFL draft kind of drafting in, gonna be sat in basements just picking out players who are free agents and stuff like that. Would Liverpool want Adam to stick around, things like that? Just opening up these questions. What does it mean for Harry Wilson, who's obviously been on loan? Does he then, become more of a crucial squad player because Liverpool can't afford to get players because no one investment proposition? I think it's going to be an interesting summer, definitely.
Yeah, it really is an interesting one, especially when we read and we rate and talk about the rumours a lot, Sean. And if you think of someone like Timo Werner, who's got this release clause, whatever it may be, 55, 60 million pounds, if Doyle saying that Thierry's value in theory could get half by this, if Sancho's were cut in half, at say he's being valued at 120 million, his value at 60 million would still be technically what Werner's release clause will be, because that's not going to change. That's been into his contract.
Yeah, it's bonkers, isn't it? I mean, even to stick with Werner, obviously we know there's he's potentially on Liverpool's shortlist. I don't know how much kind of genuine interest there is, or whether where things were up. But all the reports here, it's crazy how things changed there. If it's all to be believed, because a few weeks ago it was like you say, this release clause was there, and that was potentially something that could be met, and they could proceed with that. But then there's been rumours that Klopp was looking with them and get something maybe potentially set up, but then yeah, all of that's changed, and I think virtually every single situation, ingoings, outgoings, has changed. I think it's interesting what the guys were saying before, just going back to the likes of fringe players in the squad, likes of Shaqiri and Lovren. I think maybe it is a case where clubs can be a little bit greedy now and just say, well, you can stick around. And I think, we've already outlined a couple of advantages that Liverpool maybe have. If it's a quiet market, the amount of teams like United, like Spurs, basically everyone you guys mentioned at the top of the show, teams who are in transition. Liverpool aren't. You'd say that City kind of almost have to be in transition a little bit now. They tried a little bit last season and it didn't really work. Apart from Rodri, maybe the other guys they got in didn't really settle and take straight away. So, yeah, I think Liverpool have potentially got the financial advantage. I think they've got the creative advantage, and they've got the advantage in the sense of the nature of the squad it is now.
And on those transitional squads, Doyle, Adam Lallana has been a man, obviously his contract coming to an end, linked with Arsenal, Tottenham, Leicester City. These kind of clubs who are looking to take that next, but to do that are probably going to need an investment. Does a player like that now second think that, thinking actually, they're probably not going to be able to go and do much, and I may be one of the only players they bring in, and does that open a possibility to stay, or do you think that's completely done?
That's a very good point, actually. I didn't even consider that other players might be looking, hang on, how can I be part of a jigsaw recruitment drive that isn't actually going to be happening? I mean, Lallana's an interesting situation whereby he's obviously he's a free agent. He can do what he wants, whether that's on the 30th or a later date. That's something else that we have to mine's greater than ours. We'll have to thrash it out and see what happens there. I'm sure they'll come to some kind of agreement. We've got to be sensible about these things. But in terms of Lallana, the player, it does put him in well, it's an interesting one, because if Liverpool don't want him, then he's going to have to go somewhere, isn't he? So he's in kind of I think as Sean said, clubs may have to be greedy. The power shifted a bit back towards the clubs again, having been with the players for so long, because now you'll have players who come to the end of the contracts who normally would be going off and saying, not Lallana, by the way, just the general player, certainly the top player, would be going asking for a big sign-on fee and big wages. And now they'll be going to clubs. The clubs will say, well, we're not paying you that because we just had to give all of our players a 30% wage cut, this, that, and the other. We had to furlough staff, so you didn't even play for us yet. We might not be able to afford anybody else, so you're the only one that we're getting, and this is what we're offering you. So maybe the power's a little bit back towards the clubs. And Lallana, he's not the only one. There are, with the release, there was a list that we put today on the website. I think it was 50 free agents from the Premier League clubs this year. There's a lot of them, and most of them will be in the same situation whereby 2 months ago they'd be thinking, great, I'm looking forward to moving on my career and something out. Now they might be thinking, hang on, I wouldn't mind being offered another year extension here just for a bit of stability.
Yeah, we'll have a look through some of those names, actually. As you say, 57 names. If you want to catch them all, head to the Liverpool Echo website. They are all there. We've got a sort of full piece on them. But a few names, either just to throw at you, of players, I suppose, that now will really become of interest. Obviously, Liverpool have been linked for a long time and obviously pushed it back. The links with Ryan Fraser, who's not had a great season at Bournemouth, doesn't rule out that his contract is coming to an end, as is a player like Willian at Chelsea as well.
Yeah, well, Liverpool have obviously done quite well out of Bournemouth in the past few seasons, haven't they? Spent Sense and Ibe and Solanke obviously there recently, and I think a player like Ryan Fraser, you think if maybe Shaqiri moves on, does he just come in and fit that gap, fill in that sort of jigsaw? He's going to be on the periphery of the squad a little bit, but maybe looking like Shaqiri's first season, he came with that energy, which he maybe lost a little bit by sitting on the bench a lot and not being part of it and injuries and whatnot. But, you sort of replacing him there with someone who's going to come in and that, wow, I'm playing Liverpool from playing in front of, 12,000 Bournemouth week in, week out to, Anfield, which is, just amazing, isn't it, really? And then I know obviously Liverpool were interested in back in the day. You still watch him now. He had a great game against Liverpool, didn't he? And was it the FA Cup? And I mean, he can still do bits, can't he? He's Brazilian magic. I think players like that, it's you wouldn't say no to, certainly. And I was thinking then when you mentioned the free agents and how it might be almost easy for them to take a 1-year contract. I think they're maybe in the best position out of any player now because they are free agents, and everyone will be looking first and foremost to the free agents, where they think, well, we don't have to pay a massive fee. So I think that they're, all the players, 57 that we've listed, they're cards close to the chest, aren't they? And they get to sort of pick where they go almost. But yeah, I think they're the two standout ones for Liverpool. I think with Willian almost signed. I mean, he almost signed for everyone that day, didn't he? It was Tottenham, Chelsea. I think we nearly had him here in Birkenhead Park. But yeah, actually did sign Chelsea. And I think he's done a great job there. And I think is he in his 30s now? But you know, he'd be someone good to come off the bench, wouldn't he? 85 minutes gone, you're looking for a goal or just to run legs off the defence. I think he's got it in him.
And Sean, you head up the Felipe Coutinho fan club, and I suppose Willian, actually, Brazilian, as Kiva mentioned before, he's actually, it'd sort of be the free alternative. Quite a similar kind of player. He's can come in off that left-hand side, can play in that number 10 role. To be fair, I think he's 32 or so now, but still, on a free transfer, would look a brilliant option.
Yeah, cracking player, and I think, like you said, you know, he's played well against Liverpool a lot, so if even getting him to stop and doing that would be half decent. But I don't know. Yeah, before this pod, I was thinking, well, yeah, Ryan Fraser, interesting option. You know, he's only 26, I think, and I think he's the type of player, a little bit like the profile of players Liverpool have signed in recent seasons from relegated teams, albeit his team is not relegated, certainly not just yet. But I'd be interested to see him at a better club with a world class manager like Klopp to bring him on and see if he's the player who can take that next step. And I think he's obviously got the versatility to play in various positions across the front line. Dipped a bit this season, but I thought he was pretty good last season. Yeah, Willian, obviously. Vertonghen was even another one. I thought, well, if you're going to lose a defender and someone who's, all right, he is getting on a bit now. I think he's, 32, 33 perhaps. But he's, proven class who could come in and be part of the squad. But the more I think about it, I think if deals aren't right for the Lovren and Shaqiri leaving, and there's just no point getting rid of them. Like, why change a settled squad where, okay, they've got their quirks and Lovren's never going to be the absolute perfect defender. Shaqiri's never perhaps going to be the most disciplined attacker, but they, broadly speaking, know what they're doing, and they don't really let the club down altogether too often. You can point to mistakes here and there. And when you look at Lovren, I think last year there were times where he was supposed to leave in negotiations, wasn't it, with Roma primarily, but if the deal wasn't right, the deal wasn't done. So I'd almost try and apply that logic again still now. And if people aren't coming in with bids that are good enough for the likes of Lovren or Shaqiri, then I don't think we're letting them go. So yeah, at the start of this, I've been on the let's get Vertonghen, let's get Fraser bandwagon. Now I'm thinking Dejan and Shaqiri will do the job.
Yeah, too right. I think there might be a one-word answer coming in here. Doyle, of that Premier League list, do you want to take your fancy?
No. What I would say is that it's not as if any of these players aren't good enough. But I mean, if you're Willian, why on earth would you go from Chelsea's bench to Liverpool's bench, really? No matter how much money he gets given, he wants to be playing at that age, 32, because he won't. Anybody who comes to Liverpool know they're going to be behind the front three. Well, certainly for a large part of the season, anyway, unless they can actually just push their way into it. The rest of the Ryan Fraser, I can see what Sean's saying. If he's in a better team, it'd be interesting to see, because he has fallen off this season a little bit. But again, he's almost the same thing. How often does he play? And as I mentioned before, maybe there's a time where you look at Shaqiri and Lovren and go, well, we know exactly what they can do. And as Sean very diplomatically put, what they can't do. And stick with that, because, they know. The other thing is they know Klopp works. Klopp does this. Certainly Liverpool do things a little bit different to other teams. That's why they're, European champions, world champions, hopefully Premier League champions as well. So, I think possibly if Liverpool are signing people, I don't think it'll be on a free transfer. Certainly not from the Premier League anyway.
No, you said two things there. You just said there won't be any frees from the Premier League. You also said the likes of Lovren and Shaqiri know how Klopp works. In Europe, Mario Götze is going to be coming up for a free transfer. Is he
No chance. No chance. Absolutely no chance. No chance. Well, I'm calling it now. No.
Well, try our best to get through Doyle. There are others, though, Sean. Reece Mertens, Edison Cavani, all right, both the wrong side of 30. But I suppose this is going to be a Europe-wide scouting hunt now from a number of clubs. As Doyle said, maybe not any free transfers in at Liverpool. There'll be a load of clubs looking for a load of players on free transfers, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't quite realise both of those two are available on the frame. I guess that's absolute proven quality, isn't it? Who can come in, do it for you in the league and for you in the Champions League. But yeah, I just think, certainly from Liverpool's perspective, if you're forgetting the current situation, if you'd have looked at this transfer window and the priorities that would be there, I guess it would be keeping the squad together, keeping them settled, maybe adding a little bit of proven quality to kind of like just keep that dressing room fresh. But then I think, Minamino's there, isn't he? And a lot of the players we mentioned, certainly Fraser, the more I think about it, like even Doyle said that, let's say Liverpool got Fraser on a free, where would his opportunities be? Well, if he did have opportunities, then it would deny the likes of Minamino opportunities, Curtis Jones. You've got people who are banging on the door already. And I think there's already perhaps ways to freshen that dressing room kind of internally on the books now. So, I think like if the squad were to stay intact and, not many names were to come in, or, one or two, I think they would still be a pretty decent position by the start of next season if that does happen.
Yeah, I suppose on that natural evolution of the squad, as Keith said before, Harry Wilson's another name to throw in there. Not actually, obviously, a player who is born, he's a Liverpool player, but coming back would be that cliche like a new signing. But Kiva, of course, Jurgen Klopp has shown in the past that he does have a bit of a liking for a free transfer. Joel Matip obviously came in on a free, and he's brought in a number of goalkeepers, Adrian and, of course, Andy Logan the last summer. So it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility to see Jurgen Klopp perhaps fancy a free transfer, because they have worked for him in the past.
Yeah, I think he always admired Joel Matip, didn't he? Which is why he come from Schalke. Obviously, that's the die for Dortmund, isn't it? So Klopp had his eye on him, and as soon as he come up free, he thought, this is a professional one. It didn't quite work out straight away, did it? But then, obviously on the basis of last season, we know how much of a good player Joel Matip is. And then Adrian was just a great thing, because it happened just when it needed to. Obviously, Mignolet departed, and it was a quick. It was just so necessary, wasn't it? Liverpool needed a goalkeeper to deputise for Alisson, and no one would have expected how much Adrian has been called upon, and how much he's done a great job. I think it's obviously a shame to go out the cup and stuff like, but I think in the Champions League, you would have wanted Alisson in goal on them nights, but obviously it is what it is. I think Klopp will almost be like a predator if he is going to be a free transfer predator, and he'll hunt out the right one if he needs it. But I think he hasn't necessarily needed to do that, as he's always bought the players that he's really wanted and have made a massive difference to the club. The quiet summer last year, which obviously points to, it makes a lot of fans think that we're gonna go big this summer, but now this all comes about and it makes everything a lot different. So my mum just speaking in the kitchen putting me off. Thanks, Maria.
Good.
Sorry. No idea what I'm saying now. Maybe it's cup of tea while you're here.
Would anybody watch Free Transfer Predator, that film? I would.
Exactly, yeah. that was a great one, Kiva. But obviously, as I was saying with Kiva there, Doyle, free transfers, not just under Klopp, but through Liverpool's past, and even recent past, I suppose, the last 20 years or so, have worked really well. Certainly since obviously the Bosman ruling and all of that, it is something the club has taken advantage of. Some have worked, some haven't.
Well, yeah, you got to bear in mind that Liverpool were on the receiving end very early on in the Bosman thing. Steve McManaman went on for about 2 years. That did. They wanted him to sign a new contract. I think it was in 1997, because his contract was up in 99, and he kind of didn't under Arden. So the Barcelona came in for him. He didn't go, because it turns out Barcelona used him to try and buy Ronaldo, I think it was. And then 18 months later, it all started again, all the talk, and it turned out that he'd signed a pre-contract with Real Madrid. He'd gone in 99, so Liverpool at the time, weren't the best team in the world. He was by far the most valuable and best player. Even at the time, he was more valuable than Robbie Fowler. And they lost him. And I think since then, Liverpool have been quite keen to make sure they didn't get in the same position. That's why you see players get offered the contracts with like 2 or 3 years to go. The people that they think may be in danger of going. Klopp's been slightly different, because he showed with Emre Can that if a player can do something for him, he'll just keep them until the contract runs out. But that's been a rare event, and Liverpool ended up doing, turning it on its head and doing well with actually bringing in players on free contracts. You go back to Marcus Babel, Gary McAllister, all the way through to we mentioned Matip, and just before him James Milner. They would be among some of the best free signings. I think Maxi Rodriguez Still not sure whether that was a free transfer or not. I think there may have been some money changed hands, but in the records it looks like it's a free transfer. But Craig Bellamy come back the second time, Robbie Fowler as well. So there have been some deep ones, and again, as we mentioned with the two goalkeepers this season, it's also a good way of just filling in some holes that you need to, temporarily, for maybe a season or two.
I know you spoke obviously on the Blood Red channel a few months now, Sean, with Theo Squires on Liverpool's top 5 free transfers of all time, and I suppose one guy who, as soon as you sort of say free transfer in Liverpool, that is synonymous with that is Gary Mcallister. That role he came in and Gerard here.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been when you're looking at, the pantheon of Liverpool's best free transfers, I've always been a Gary Mac ultra. I just thought he was exactly what the club needed at the time. Obviously, absolutely cool role into that cup treble and getting the Reds into the Champions League. And I think he was just ideal. Or it seemed, obviously outwardly, an ideal presence for the dressing room, and someone brilliant for the likes of Gerrard to learn from as a midfielder, how you carry yourself, how you influence people. But saying that, I now think that the more I think about Milner and how long Liverpool have had him for and how they managed to get him for nothing, I think he's got to now cemented himself as the best piece of free business they've ever done. Because I think he's now played more games for Liverpool than he played for City. And they must be kicking themselves because he's been such an integral part of this Liverpool team. And, playing in a variety of position games from left back for that season where he did that. And everybody's seen since. Yeah, I used to always think Gary Mac was the one on the kind of show us your medals arguments and just a couple of seasons of great influence and winning loads of silverware. But yeah, I think Milner now has set the bar. I think if they ever discover a better bar than James Milner, we'll be doing very, very well.
No, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because Milner arrived in 2015, so 5 years of service, and he obviously renewed his contract recently, Kiva, and there's always been that talk of United wanting to take him back. But as Sean says, Liverpool not wanting to recreate that mistake that Man City did in letting Milner go before too soon.
Yeah, I think just before he signed that contract and when last season, Leeds almost got up, didn't they? And it looks like they're going to do it this season if it all, goes to plan and we get back playing. But you'd always thought like he was destined to just return home and, end his career where it started. But I think Klopp's had a big ink on it. Thought, can we lose this player who can play pretty much everywhere on the pitch for us? He sets the tone. In training in the dressing room, as soon as they come back in the summer and they done them lactate tests, whatever it was just absolutely, he's an absolute monster, isn't he? He's a funny guy. He's someone who you need to have around and someone who's, played for a very long time and has a lot of experience. And I think that was optimised, obviously, when Neil Critchley took charge of the young Reds, and he was there, wasn't he, on the sideline, sort of giving pointers and went in the dressing room and give them a bit of a talking to, and would surprise me eventually if he was going to management, and if Klopp's still around when James Milner hangs up his boots, I wouldn't mind seeing him at the backroom staff at Anfield, because I just think he's just someone you don't want to lose almost, because he's just so valuable both on and off the pitch.
And so, Doyle, if the accolades go to Gary Mcallister and James Milner as sort of the pin-up boys of how to do free transfer business, so I suppose Okol, Milan Janovic and Andre Voronin are probably the ones of how not to do it.
Oh, there's been worse ones than them. You look at some of the goalkeepers, and I didn't mention any of them by name before, and I'm not going to now, actually, because I'm sure you've got a big list of them. There are some absolute, they were clearly just bought, as I say, just to, one, he never played and he was never going to play. And this is nothing against him. He was just brought in to actually help with the goalkeepers at the time. That was Alex Manninger, who obviously formerly of Arsenal. And he joined when he was like 39 or something stupid like that a couple of years ago. And Klopp brought him in simply to help out with the training for a year. He was never going to play. And you'd have to argue, to a certain degree, that's the same with Andy Lonergan. He's been on the bench. Has been on the bench for the Chelsea game. No, it was the Champions League game. That was it. Yeah. In fact, it could have been both of those games. But he was, it would have to take a remarkable series of events for him to come on. It was never being bought to be played. But I know you mentioned Janovic. Cole was the biggest disappointment, simply because I think everybody thought what a great move that was by Liverpool. Similar in a way to the Milner one, in the sense that he was coming from a team who were doing better than Liverpool at the time. He certainly were better players. And Liverpool got him for, in what looked a great deal in terms of transfer fee. But from very early on. It wasn't all down to him and his fitness, but Liverpool at the time were not a great team to run into. You mentioned Ivanovic then as well. Even Voronin a couple of years before when he joined, it was kind of the tail end of the Benitez era and things were starting to go a bit awry. So I'm not going to pick on those one guy, no.
No, I suppose we're cultural. It's one of those where it's probably circumstance as much as anything as well that sort of conspired against him, because as Doyle said, he joined having literally just picked up a Premier League winners medal with Chelsea, and he played quite a key role at the back end. 2009 season, scored at Old Trafford, and all of a sudden he arrived at Liverpool and sent off on his debut and never really sort of recovered from that.
No, I think, he probably represents the biggest disparity, like Doyle said, between what you expect from a transfer and what you get. Maybe the fact that he was acquired for nothing should have been what we took our cue from there. But, I don't think it was fans alone who kind of bought into it. I remember, pretty sure, didn't Gerrard compare him to Messi at one point?
Yeah.
And you can understand that he was a classy player in his pomp, wasn't he? And brought something, or we hoped that he would bring something that Liverpool didn't have, a real genuine flair player who could dribble and carry the ball. But yeah, look, there's knackered as after like minutes of 5 aside after he just started the game. So yeah,
he always seems to have his hands on his knees.
Yeah,
trying to breathe in.
Yeah, poor fella. But yeah, I think he'd probably be the one in terms of the difference between hope and reality. But I think a few of the others you mentioned are on that list as well. Like,
any that stick out for you, Kiva?
I remember being very disappointed by Joe Cole, to be honest. I think it wasn't a great time to come to the club, was it? I just remember thinking, oh my God, we've signed Joe Cole. It did feel quite special, watching him for Chelsea in England. And then he come to us and looked like a 40-year-old, didn't he? So
I'll do that.
Absolutely not. But yeah, I think the other ones you wouldn't really expect anything of them. So I mean, I expected something of Joe Cole. I think it's kind of weird when they come on a free, because you're not really expecting anything, are you? You're just kind of like you know that they've come. You haven't had to pay for them, so they've kind of got that already. Like we haven't fought out for them. But obviously you're still paying them wages, so you want them to do a job. But yeah, I think I was disappointed by that one. Less so by Voronin and Ivanovic, because I think, as soon as you see them posing, you can't know what's going on here.
I'll say about Ivanovic, he was a very nice man, very polite. Always shook your hand in the mix, so that's why I will not have a word said against him.
Good lad.
Yeah, good to know. Good to know. Well, that rounds up. We've had last here, the Blood podcast set us up nicely for the week ahead, and we've got a good film title out of it as well. Jurgen Klopp, the free transfer predator, and the Caoimhe Ultras. I think that's a good one to go. Guys, thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate it.
Cheerio.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps it up for us here on Monday's edition of the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. Thanks for your time and your company. Until next time, though, bye for now.